Thank you for staying with us on Citizen Weekend. Kisumu Governor Professor Anyang' Nyong'o has officially taken over as the new ODM party leader in an acting capacity. Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga takes over the position of ODM chairperson, left vacant after the exit of Treasury CS John Mbadi. And as Francis Mtalaki reports, the move will allow Raila Odinga to continue with his campaigns for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission.
The scramble to take over one of the influential political parties in Kenya seems to be coming to an end after the ODM National Executive Committee sitting in Mombasa and chaired by Raila Odinga ratified the new party structure that has seen Odinga exit from the party and local politics.
You may be seated. In
the structure, Kisumu Governor Professor Anyang' Nyong'o is the new party leader, deputized by his counterparts Abdulswamad Sharif Nassir of Mombasa, Simba Arati of Kisii, and Vihiga Senator Godfrey Osoti. Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga is the new ODM party chairperson. She takes over from Treasury CS John Mbadi after his exit from the Orange Party. Nyong'o, who has been appointed in an acting capacity, is seen as a tactical move to hold brief for Odinga to focus on his campaigns for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission.
Na vile ambaye atanishikilia niko mimi mwenyewe sanaenda kwa vita huko kupambana kwa kiti ya halmashauri ya Afrika bara ya Afrika, Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o. Mimi na hakika ya kwamba chama iko mikononi ya dereva ambaye anaweza. Hawa madereva wote najua wanaweza. Na hakika sina wasiwasi wala tashwishi wote. Kwa ODM itazidi kuimarika na kuendelea mbele.
On the cards for the new leadership are party grassroots elections to be conducted in November.
Let this exercise be one that strengthens our unity rather than sowing seeds of division and hatred. Let us plan them in a way that they help build a unified party, the strong platform for the one thing we are best known for, which is changing Kenya for the better.
The National Executive Committee sitting in Mombasa will come to a close on Sunday after a 3-day retreat that ratified the changes in the Orange Party. Francis Mtalaki, Citizen TV, Mombasa.
As promised, we are joined by Franklin Mukwanja, who is the ED, Executive Director at the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, Kenya. Franklin, of what significance is this moment? Raila Odinga has officially exited the ODM stage, and to quote his statement this afternoon, he said, "Whatever you do, ladies and gentlemen, be assured that I am always with you wherever I am, whatever I do, I will be with you, mind and spirit."
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting moment because when we have smooth transitions like the one we witnessed in ODM, where Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, the founding Secretary General of the political party, coming in, albeit in acting position, as Honorable Raila Odinga seeks to serve the African continent in a different capacity, that smooth transition and that organizationability around it is a good thing. And of course, he's also concerned that the political machinery he has built over the last 20 years needs to survive beyond his own shelf life, and therefore wishing and encouraging the new party leadership to be consistent with his ideals and the ideals of the party is something good. And one of the challenges that we have seen in our multi-party democratic setting is the shelf life of the political party. So it is a good thing to see that a party can have proper mechanisms to transition to new leadership without splintering, without factionalism, in a level that we see that these long-term institutions are becoming stronger and stronger. So it's a good thing that Honorable Raila Odinga is pursuing other interests, but also in leaving the party in very good hands of the three deputy party leaders, the governor of Mombasa, the governor of Kisii, the senator of Vihiga, the governor of Homa Bay coming in as the chair, and of course Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, the founding Secretary General, taking charge again. So it's really a good day for multi-party democracy, and also encouraging other political parties to remain consistent and loyal to their own ways.
All right. But Raila Odinga has, over the decades, been the face of the minority, to use parliamentary terms, the biggest opposition party in parliament. Of what significance? Where does this then leave the opposition?
I think first we have to deal with the very basics, Olive. Get the nomenclature right, as you said. We do not have per se an opposition as a country since 2010 Constitution and the first election under the 2010 Constitution, 2013. What we have is a minority and majority system in a presidential system. And therefore, that changes the whole configuration around how oversight is done. The responsibility of oversight then is to the entire House of Parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate. Having said that, of course, then ODM has played that role of opposition, in quotes, since 2013, and Raila Odinga has won that heart. But of course, succession is a normal thing, and you know, people have to grow into roles, and therefore that space that he's creating, and with the likes of Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka and the others who have also been in the opposition, they have to step up and demonstrate that they are able to fit in Raila Odinga's shoe and not leave Kenyans to feel that the shoe is too big for any other person to wear. And I believe even within ODM and other political parties, there are quite some young thugs that have been mentored to the level that they can be able to do the job. But then we also have to look at the constraints of minority party in our setting. That if you look at it, in my view, the latest issue is that political parties are struggling to tap into the energy of the young people, and you need this so that they can be able to drive the process of economic reforms. You can be able to mobilize public support to issues. Political parties are also struggling with the clarity of their ideology and their vision, and criticizing government is not sufficient enough for an opposition political party. Kenyans are looking for a viable, credible alternative that presents a coherent and understandable, policy alternative to what the government is saying. So just going out and saying we object is not what possibly Kenyans are looking up to. And I think we have to grow into that mentality that the minority has that responsibility more than the majority party, but the entirety of Parliament, the Senate and the National Assembly, are actually the oversight institutions. So that nomenclature still brings in challenges, but we have to have that understanding and also appreciate the challenges that the political parties are going through, including the minimum funding. Because when you are in a country like Kenya, with the setup that we have, the government, the party that forms government may have unhindered and fettered access to resources that enables them to mobilize, remain in touch and interface with the public. But the limited resources that the opposition political parties have makes it quite difficult for them to maintain that contact and interface, and engaging the public in political education and awareness of the issues that they are channeling out, so that they can be able to get that, push that public perception to positive areas where they're actually trusted as an alternative voice to present that policy alternative.
Can ODM legitimately continue to play the role of the minority, given the absorption of some of its members into government, a fact that Raila Odinga in his speech today said he was proud of?
I mean, that has been a very contested issue, not just with the current arrangement. Since 2013, we have seen post-2013 2018, the handshake between Honorable Raila Odinga and former President Uhuru Kenyatta, and now the new camaraderie between President William Ruto and Honorable Raila Odinga. They will, of course, on one end of the mouth, want to say that we are in doing our work as a political party, but the public perception and the credibility in the eyes of the public that you are relating to government in this particular way, the inability for the party to present that, alternative voice and views to what the government is doing just beyond criticism are the issues that Kenyans are really raising, that you cannot have your cake and eat it. But we will see, because the configuration that we have, not being in opposition but being a minority or majority party, and therefore bestowing that responsibility of oversight to Parliament, I hope that Honorable Raila Odinga, respectively so, will release and not just release but possibly even elongate the leash that his elected leaders could be on, to allow them the free of mind to be able to do their work as legislators, as representatives, as the oversight house, because that is where we have a challenge. I personally, as a democratic development person, struggle to really believe what the party tells us, that they will have their cake in government and they will also want to eat it in the oversight role in the opposition. But there is absolutely something that we have to state clearly, that there are well-accepted norms that we have to conduct ourselves within to be able to provide those alternatives. And in the eyes of the public, I am confident, without any fear of doubt, that Kenyans have suspicion as to whether the party of Raila Odinga ODM means well in terms of having one foot in government and also having the other foot, especially in control of the critical slots of alternative voice in Parliament. And you could see that even in the course of impeachment, there was a lot of support from the minority leader on the floor of the House, which is not that the majority and the minority party can engage in bipartisanship on the floor of the House. But then at the right signals being sent, are we seeing the Raila Odinga of before the handshake with William Ruto and the Raila Odinga after? Are we going to see that the emergency of the founding Secretary General, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, coming back to the party, going to provide that extra oomph and releasing that pressure from Raila Odinga and provide that required alternative voice to Kenyans?
So is the system working as it is presently set up? The presidential system you've told us about, where Parliament provides the oversight. If you look at the public participation, you mentioned the impeachment motion against the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. There was a sense when you listened to people that they felt their MPs represent more the interests of the executive than act as people's representatives.
These things, in my view, take time. And at the constitution-making moment, we had choices to make. And the contest was largely about whether we want a centralized system or a devolved system, whether we wanted a presidential system or a parliamentary system. And we made our choices. And it's now 11 years, 14 years down the line. We can see the weaknesses. The challenge with the kind of system that we have, the minority and majority with a presidential system, it makes it very difficult for Parliament to be independent because as a president, you want to pursue your agenda. And that agenda in our setup is that budget has to be approved by Parliament. And your nominees have to be vetted by Parliament. And many other very critical functions to enable the executive perform have to go through the vetoing by Parliament. And therefore, any pragmatic policy advisor would tell the President what I believe the policy advisors of William Ruto are telling him, to capture Parliament. And that makes that a presidential system is raiding in nature. And that then leaves very little room where there is no sufficient maturity, especially where you have weaker political parties in terms of ideological foundations and orientations. Makes it very difficult for the legislators to remain loyal to their ideals and philosophy. And therefore we are struggling, but it may not be the time to pull the trigger. I think we need to progress a lot more and develop our political parties to a level that we can be able to begin to see, because there must be a reason, Olive, that we made these choices, that while we're going the devolved system way, can we also then go the presidential way? But in my view, is it the real right system? I bet not, and not just that. Even our electoral system design, in my view, is a problem, because we are highly patriarchal, we are highly ethnicized, other than the young people who beginning to look at this country differently. Our politics is currently highly mobilized along ethnic lines. We have a lot of money influence in our politics. This combination of ethnicity, patriarchy, money, coupled with the first past the post system of electoral system design that we bestowed ourselves, does not produce fair representation, in my view, and will never deliver gender and social inclusion gender equality and social inclusion that we really yearn for. As for the presidential system, we will continue learning, and it's just for Kenyans to continue demanding of their legislators. And finally, the aspect of our poor political culture. The legislators may not be motivated enough to do their oversight role, their representation role, and their legislation role, because likely that is not the reward that the electorates give them. Kenyans are very much into transactional politics. Voter bribery is rampant. The social contract is really a misnomer, where we choose our leaders based on how generous they are, and that then goes to, you have to be wealthy and then generous so that you can be able to interface by giving. So if we sort out our political culture, strengthen our political parties, we have a better chance of doing better with the with the presidential system. Without that political discipline and without a positive political culture, we will not be able to make improvements. On the part of the electoral system design, I have no doubt that this is the conversation that we must have as a country, so that we can improve on our fair representation and also improve on our gender equality and social inclusion. I do not see, for instance, how the two-third gender, the not more than two-third gender principle can be achieved under the first past the post. It's going to be very difficult. But when you have other systems like the mixed member proportional representation, either with a closed or open list, you can actually be able to put in those intersectionalities and make sure that Kenyans are fairly represented and we achieve gender equality and social inclusion.
All right, thank you for speaking to us this evening. That is Franklin Mukwanja, Executive Director, Center for Multi-Party Democracy, Kenya. Thank you very much for those insights. Now, in our story on the installation of the Right Reverend Wallace Ng'ang'a Gashihi as the Bishop of the Military Ordinariate of Kenya, an event that was held at the Ulinzi Sports Complex in Lang'ata. Our report referred to him as retired. Would like to clarify that he is not retired. It is Right Reverend Wallace Ng'ang'a Gashihi. On that note, we take a break, but do stay tuned because Citizen Weekend continues on the other side.